Welcome all. Boone here from EWPRO. Hope you all had a lovely Christmas and New Year celebration. So let's get started with this weekly outlook. So DXY, nothing's changed on the daily. I'm still looking at a possible A, B, C here, a flat, and then we get another one down in here, possibly down to that 100 fib. So nothing's changed on the daily. This is quite this is quite choppy here. And there is bullish divergence here, so there's no sell on it to go and break the low, that's for sure. It's really because we have bullish divergence in here. This could go up and break this top, but I'm more interested in like a larger correction in here. So a larger correction than these over here, and then we get another one down, and hopefully it goes and breaks the daily lows. Very risky to be buying into this. Like it's extremely choppy, so it's looking more corrective than anything. So there is no buy set up on it, and at this stage there is no sell. Like I mentioned, I'd be waiting for a correction larger than these over here. We are starting to get that, but this is a patience game now, waiting for this correction, and then we can look for a sell. AU, excuse me. I'm looking at this A, B, and we get a C up in here, up to that 100 pip. So nothing's changed on the daily. We were looking for more upside here. We had that nice impulse up. We were looking for a correction. It didn't even come back to the 38.2, and it's gone. But if you're on that, I'd stay on that. And you could possibly add to your position. If you get another bullish setup, I'd be waiting for this to come down and break the low again here. Like we sort of have an A, B, C here, a flat. So ideally we get an A, B, C. And then if we get a buy set up on the lower time frames, well, then you could look to buy. You could risk trying to buy this in here, but it's dangerous because we have a bear hidden there. So this is what I teach in my course, how to avoid, well, how to get on high probability trades and leave stuff like this alone when we have that bear hidden there, possible bear hidden, I try and teach my students how to take the most high probability trades so we don't get many hits. GU, I'm looking for that A, B, and a C up in here. Meantime, there's two scenarios here, like I've gone over for the last, well, probably month or so. I'm looking at an A, a B, and a C in here, a flat. And then we get an A, B, C, finishing off the B wave, and then we can look for that larger C up. So there's two scenarios here. This either plays out and we get this larger C down, and then we look for the buy, or it goes from here. But like I showed on the AU, on the H1, if you're going to buy in here, it's not a high probability trade because we have a bear hidden there. So it's very risky to buy. We need this one down and then a buy set up, and then we can look to buy for that C up. So yeah, in the meantime, we are looking for another one up on the H4. We're looking at, we're waiting for this time factor basically, and then we look for that wave 5 up. And then, if we get a sell set up, well, then we look for that larger C down, like I showed. Yeah. At this stage, there's really not much on it. We're waiting for that time factor. EU, we already got the C up on this one. We got that A, B, C. We bounced off that 100 fib there. And the problem was on the lower time frames, this in here, if you go back through my recordings, you'll see that this was very choppy in here. So we're actually looking for a buy. We weren't looking as that as the top because of this was so choppy. Now we have 5 up here. We've got 1, 2, 3. We're looking for a wave 4 here and a wave 5 up there. So I'd be looking for the wave 5 up for sure. And we can see how choppy this is in here. Probably due to low volatility in the market over the Christmas break. But you can see how choppy this is. It looks very corrective for more upside. So as soon as we get a bullish setup on here, we can look for a buy. And I mean, this isn't going to be. I'm just setting its targets here as if this is the actual low here of the C wave. And the 123.6 and the 161.8 is your first target and your second target. There is no buy set up on it yet, though. Yeah, we've just got to wait for a buy setup. NU on the daily never really played out. I was looking for that A, B, and a C up in here. Instead, we got this large flat here. I am looking for upside here, of course. I did mention that I was in this trade. I did get in this trade, but it come back and took me out. But at break even. But I'm still looking at this as some sort of a, I don't believe that this is all the upside. Unfortunately, there's nothing on it now. We already have like an A, B, C up in here with bearish divergence. So there's really not much we can do here unless we get some sort of more complex correction, right? Maybe get 3 down in here. We could look for a buy. But yeah, at this stage, there's really not much on it at all. It hadn't been playing nicely at all. And so GY on the daily, we're looking at that wave A and then WXY, X2 and a Z up. This wave Z here can get up to that 161.8 like I've mentioned. And then we get an X2 and then we get an A. All this is a B and we get that C down as a larger flat. And then we get that wave 5 up on the weekly. I mean, there has been buy setups on this. It's just scalping though. You're just scalping this. And even now, this is looking very bullish. I would be looking for another one down in here before I'd take it. Before I'd look for a buy. Like I'd be looking at some sort of A, B. Well, sorry, an A, B, C in here, and then we get an A, B, C. So I'd be looking for another one down in here before I start to look for buys on the lower time frame. Scalping just to break the top. There's nothing more you can do with this. You're just scalping with the trend. UY, I mean, this hadn't been playing real nicely either. I'm looking at all this as a B wave, then we get an A, B, C. So nothing's changed on the daily from what I've been looking at. We did get the C up in here. We were looking for 3 up in here, like an A, B. We're looking for that C up. It did go above that 100 pip, but that, yeah. So that's fine. This is starting to look bearish in here. So if you do get a bearish setup, you could look for it for like we'll look at that as a flat, and we get an A, a B, and a C. So I'll be looking for a C down. There is no sell set up on it. I mean, this is extremely risky too, because on the H1, you can see here we got a bullish hidden divergence. So this is very risky. We have a bull hidden here. So you want a nice entry, and this can, because of that bull hidden, can go up and break the top, and this can become more complex, like an A, B, C in here, and then an A, B, C, etc. So you got to get a nice entry if you're going to trade this. I'd Yeah, if you're a little bit inexperienced, I'd be leaving it alone altogether at this stage. CAD, looking for this to break the low in this wave Z here. Nothing's changed. On the higher time frames, we're starting to get this wave 4 on the H4, which we were looking for. Well, I said you can look for a buy, a scalp buy into this correction, up to that 38.2. It's very risky to be trading in, a correction, but yeah, you got to have a lot of patience. So we're just waiting for this time factor here, then we look for that wave 5 down. The Swissy, looking for a little bit more downside here as well. Looking at that A, B, and the C down. I believe this did. No, it didn't go and break the low. Really hoping this does go. Like, this goes and breaks all the lows, then gives us a nice bullish setup. Other than that, I'd be leaving it alone, because we're right down on the bottom of the market on the daily. So you got to be very careful selling. It's just scalping if you're selling, and there is no buy setup on it. So I mean, if you have a look at the, it's not really on the H1. Well, there is a bear hidden in here. But yeah, I mean, this is looking more bearish, for more downside, in my opinion, at this stage. Yeah, there's no buy set up on it. I'm more interested in the longer term buys, waiting for that low to be broken on the daily, and then looking for a long term buy. EG, we're pretty much staying out of. Ever since we had those 5 up, we're waiting for a complete correction in here, larger complete correction. Then we can start to look for like 5, 3, and a 5 up. There's that scenario, or this just comes down and breaks the low after we got the 5 up. I'm more inclined to think that, we get some sort of a flat and then more upside. Is this complete here yet? You got to be very careful. It's looking quite choppy. We are getting bullish divergence in here. You may get a buy setup. I mean, if you got a nice buy setup, you could look for it. I mean, on the H1, we're getting all that bullish divergence in here. So if you got a nice impulse up, breaking the top here, and a nice correction, well, then you could look for a buy. Other than that, you're leaving it alone. We already got the bullish divergence, so you're not looking for sells, at the low here. WTI, we did actually come down and break the low here. So I'm looking at that A, a B, and we get a C up in here. There's 2 scenarios here, like I've shown. We either get this larger C up here, or we just get an A, a B, and a C up in here on the H4. Either way, we're looking for buys. So we are starting to get some sort of a correction. I mean, this is It's risky as well because we do have a bear hidden in here. So this can come very deep to this wave here or even come and break the low. So we need a nice entry. But I am, any bullish setup I get, I am looking to buy. We sort of do have 3 down in here now too. So yeah, any bullish setup you get, you definitely can look for a buy. You just have to be mindful that, there is that possible bear hidden on the H4. But even still, you'd have to be careful with the buy, and you definitely got to be, well, more than likely you'd be at break even before this top here gets broken. But, you got to be careful because this may just come up, just break that top and then fall over with that bear hidden. So we are looking for a C up. Ideally, it takes off, and we get that larger C up on the daily. But with that bear hidden there, this may not be the low. Gold. I'm looking at all this as a flat here. I mean, I've got to do this count. I mean, this never played out nicely. If I go back here, I shouldn't really be doing this, but I was looking for an A, B, C here, and then we get an A, B, C. I was looking for that C down, and then it goes, but it just took off from here, unfortunately. So, now I'm still looking for more upside, of course. The trend's clearly up on the daily. But I'm looking at all this as a B wave, and we get an A, a B, and a C in here. And then we can look for more buys. So I've only been looking for a sell, but again, there's really no sell setups on it. And the reason you got to be very careful because we have bull hidden in here. So this can go up and break that top again, and we get some sort of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up in here, and before we get that A, B, C. So yeah, you need a nice entry. This is actually giving a nice flat on the lower time frame. You could look for a sell here, just to break the low. I'd be looking at that as a flat. Oh, sorry, my mouse is playing up a bit. So looking at a possible flat there, so we get an A, a B, and a C. So if on the lower time frames you get a correction in here, you can look for that C down. It's quite risky because we've already broken this low here over here. Well, just about. So there's not much room in it. But yeah, if you get a nice sell set up, because this may turn motive as well, and we get 5 down in here because of where we are on the daily, right at the top, all-time highs. So, yeah, if you get a nice sell set up on the lower time frames, by all means, look for the sell. Silver, so we're looking for this B wave in here. We've been waiting for a B wave in here for a long time. It's just keep on going up. There's still more upside in this. This may be the end of the wave A here, which would be nice. Now we just got to be patient and wait for a nice correction in here, and then we can look for a C up. This is a time factor, so it's going to take some time. As for the sell, it's very similar to gold. Gold looks a little bit better though, but we sort of have an A, a B. If we get a nice C up in here, well, then we could look for a sell. This didn't really go far enough. That's why I say, gold does look a little bit better than, silver at this stage. But once we get a complete correction, well, then we can start to look for longer term buys. Other than that, it's pretty much just scalping. Quick look at Bitcoin. So the daily, nothing's changed. for at least a month now, but we got a nice impulse down. So ever since we got this impulse down, I'm waiting for this correction. If we get a nice correction in there, we get a C down. So if you can try and scalp this correction, it's going to be risky. Corrections are very choppy and unpredictable. So the safest way is to wait for a complete correction in here, and then we can start to look for that C down on the daily. Other than that, you're just scalping. H4, I was looking for, well, and still am, looking for a fifth wave down here. We didn't get it. But, even this is starting to look bearish too. So, you could look for, first and your second target here, but yeah, I'd be letting that go and waiting for a nice bullish setup to trade into that correction. But yeah, it's not looking very nice at this stage. So S&P 500, we're just about at that wave 5 W1 target, that second target, that 161.8. There was a flat on the lower time frame here we were looking at, and that's gone. We were looking at this flat here. It come back down nearly to the 50 fib. So, this was, well, this is what I call a give me trade, because, we had a nice impulse up. We had a, nice correction, and yeah, you get that. Now you pretty much got to leave it alone. It's broken the top. We've got bearish divergence. This is still looking rather bullish here. So there is no sell on it. But yeah, yep. For the sell, I'd want this low here to be broken. Give us a correction, and then we can look for, 5 down or at least 3 down. Till that happens, I'll pretty much be leaving it alone. AU 200. I was looking at this flat here as well. And this still may give us some more upside here. I mean, it's extremely risky. You'd only want to put a small position on, because we've already got the top. So we're right at the top of the market, but this does look bullish, and we can go up and break that top. We get some sort of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up in here. So yeah, they're a risky trade. And I think they're all pretty much the same, these indices at this stage. I'd pretty much be staying out of them. The FTSE's right up the top. It's clearly bullish. Here I was looking for the same thing, an A, B. We get a C down. We've got to wait for that C down before we can buy again. And there is no sell set up on it. The same with the DAX. This one did complete a correction in here, like I've gone over. We got that a B, and a C up. And then we got that A, B, C. Nice flat in here to buy. It's just about broken the top. So you're not buying right at the top of the market, And if you are, you're just scalping and, getting a few pips out of it. So I hope you enjoyed this weekly outlook. If you did, please hit the like button, share and subscribe. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you out there next week.